And we're on. Well, guys, welcome to the first episode of the Beast and Bake podcast. Did a derby talk for you. I'm one of your hosts, Shane Ryan, together with the co-host, Nathan Williams. Nathan, say hello.
How are we?
We're good. Mate, so what we're starting here is just a podcast to sort of have some more communication with the Derby boys, talk about events that are going on and events that are coming up in association with the newly formed ADDA, Demolition Derby Association. Just basically to have this weekly contact with the drivers to discuss any issues that have happened, as well as watch over Derby clips and have a bit of a talk to the drivers, a bit of history for the drivers, and try and move the sport forward and grow it as much as we can. So we'll start off. I'll have a bit of a chat with Nath just so we can know his background and where he's coming from. He is the president of the ADDA. So it's good to know who we're actually talking to. So, Nath, how did you get started in the world of demolition derbies?
So I got started in derbies. Well, basically, I was sort of born into it. The old boy derbied for probably 20 plus years. So that's sort of, I kind of had no choice in the world of derbies. But I was sort of like a late bloomer. I didn't really start till I was 17, 18 in derby world. And it's one of those things. It doesn't matter if you're around it all the time or whether you're brand new into it. You do your first one and you got to love it or you hate it. There's no real in between for the world of derbies. So it's definitely one of those things where you got to have a passion for it. But I did my first one, and it was definitely an instant rush, something that you don't really feel like anything else. It gets something inside you going, and nothing else in the world sort of compares to it. So that was sort of the start of the addiction.
Where was your first derby?
Dungog.
What car were you in?
Little XL.
How'd you go?
Got second or third. It was a teams derby. It was a 4-man teams derby.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So how long have you actually been doing it for?
8 years now.
Pretty good. And what's your best memory of the sport so far?
Best memory is probably winning Dad's derby, get me name on his trophy.
Yeah. So you're a representative driver. Can you talk me through how that come about and what actual events you've done?
So I guess it's just sort of being recognised in the sport in sense of sort of not tooting my own horn or anything, but doing well in the sport and, being noticed, being viewed as someone that'd be valued in a rep team derby. I've done city versus country, so I was captain of the city team. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but at the end, it come 1. And I suppose that's probably the best thing you can get for a representative derby. I've done state of origin. Don't really want to talk about that one, but we're
definitely going to have to talk about that a bit later on, unfortunately. But we'll come back to that one anyway. So can you tell me what your favourite car is to actually derby and how you prepare it?
So I'd have to pick a Magna. I just love Magnas. Pretty basic sort of setup, really. There's not too much about them that you have to change. Probably the only thing you do to them is just move that wiring at the front. They pretty much just built tough themselves. They're hard to kill.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So we're going to play our first clip today, and I'm going to ask you some questions about it, where it's at, and I hope you remember it. So we'll play it here. So obviously that was Toyota Camry, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Where was this at?
Wingham.
And do you remember the year or anything?
Probably would have been about 4 or 5 years ago now.
Who were you up against at the end there?
Jason Rasport.
And how'd you end up going?
I got second. I got bogged.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
well, Jason will be loving watching this podcast if he's won that derby then.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll probably move on from that one, come on to my sort of expertise and background. I started Demolition Derbies when I was 16 years old. My brother had been doing it for, I think, 10 or 15 years before that. I've been derbying for 15 years now. I've done the city versus country and I've done the state of origin unsuccessfully. I was the captain of the country team when it won, and I was the captain of the New South Wales team when we lost. I definitely preferred the first one more than the second one, considering I left with a broken rib from state of origin. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed the rep side of the Demolition Derbies more so than just the local shows. It seems like the build-ups are a lot more intense. And this is, what we're all about, is having the excitement for longer than the 10 minutes of a derby usually lasts, is to build up for 6 or 8 months before it. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure most of the people online would actually have seen one of my derbies or have their own opinions of my driving styles, which I'm sure will be in the comments section of the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'll play a clip anyway and I'll play a clip that I've chosen that's from when I used to hit hard. So that's from our TikTok account. If anyone's actually keen to follow us on there, it's Aussie Derbies. We always have different video clips and that on there, but this was Stroud back in 2012. I believe it was Tom Kay was in the Ute, and I was in the Magna Wagon that hit him. Pretty much, my thoughts behind this one were I was driving flat out because I knew I had a blown head gasket with no water in the radiator, so I ended up picking up second place in this derby, and done a fair few big hits there until the motor gave out. But so just that's how you guys know us a little bit before we bring on our guest today. So Nath, you want to introduce our mate that we got on coming with us?
All right, so we got Chris Fisher, which is actually the second half of Shake and Bake. I won't talk too much about him. He can do that himself. But yeah, he's a member of our Derby Association as well. And he's been derbying quite some time now. But yeah.
How are we?
They're good. He's just been sit at the side there waiting to get called on.
Yeah.
How are we doing, Chris?
Yeah, good.
So I'll ask similar sort of questions just to introduce yourself to the crowd, if anyone's actually watching us. So how did you get started in the world of Demolition Derbies?
Well, it all started out at the Motordrome, which is a old speedway that got shut down. We went there nearly every weekend and just watch the speedway. And the Demolition Derby was the best part of the actual speedway, watching that. So, and then unfortunately it got shut down and lost all the contact about the Demolition Derby until I was probably about 23. I was driving past his house and I seen the Demolition Derby car out the front and stopped in there, introduced myself, and just asked how to get into it and went from there.
Who was that?
That was my now father-in-law, Shane Oliver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it was a Magna then.
No, I think it was a small car, like a Pulsar or something.
Oh, okay.
Memory,
So
yeah.
how long have you been doing derbies for?
Be about 7.5 years now. So
What's the best part of the sport to you?
The best part is meeting new friends. Obviously, I made a lot of friends out of it. Met my best mates. Yeah, just the whole, you're enemies on the field, but afterwards you shake hands and you're all friends. So it's the best part of it.
So out of curiosity, how did you link up with Nathan Williams as Shake and Bake?
We've been through this a couple of times. We don't actually really know how we become like best mates, but yeah, I guess we just clicked, and yeah, or the partners at the time were friends with each other, and yeah, we just started hanging out and got to know each other more, and now I'm stuck with him.
Well, someone had to do the job. You guys definitely work well together. I'm going to play a clip of you guys laying the smackdown on some poor bugger, and then we can talk about it after. So I'm assuming that you would have been in the Lightning McQueen car.
Yeah, that was me.
What car was that?
That was a Magna.
Nice. So you've obviously come through and wiped out his front end. Who was that you were hitting?
Pretty sure it was Michael Calvert, Mo.
Oh, okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but yeah.
Then obviously Nate's come in. How do you guys manage to work out? It seems like you guys are on the same wavelength. Most derbies.
That's a secret. No, I don't know. It's like we just got this sort of connection. We just watch out for each other and got an eye for it. So yeah, obviously if I or Nathan come in and do a big hit, yeah, we just watch each other, and yeah, if we think it's in a good position for the other to come in and do a decent hit, we just hold and yeah, move out the way at the last second.
We'll definitely talk about it later, but that definitely didn't happen at State of Origin.
No, that didn't.
At the highest level, we sort of had an issue. Nath went out into the wilderness on his own, and none of us could find him. So that kind of he went into the deep waters and got drowned. We'll have a chat about that later. We'll review the actual video footage because I'm not sure what was going on in his head when he went up against 6 or 7 Queenslanders at once. So I'll show another video just to show Chris's driving style. Probably one of the best hits I've seen in derbies for a long time. So obviously that's a massive hit. Where was this at?
That was at Tari Show.
And you were obviously in another Magna?
Yeah.
Do you know what the old mate in the little car was driving?
I don't know what that is.
It was a little Pulsar or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know who the bloke was?
Yeah, his name is William Butler. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him back after this one, but
I don't blame him. Can you tell me what was going through your head as you were flying from one side of the field?
So this is another shake and bake hit. You see Nathan in the red car just to the right of the screen. He pulls out just before I hit him. Yeah, I was on the other side of the field and see Nathan holding him, so I just took my opportunity to come through and get him.
And what happened after the hit?
I unfortunately hurt him a fair bit. He had to end up getting airlifted to the hospital.
Yeah, you can see him waving off a little bit there.
Yeah.
Do you know what injuries he ended up suffering?
Don't know for sure, but they're talking about pelvis and ribs. So,
yeah, and obviously that's an issue in the sport. when we have injuries and stuff like that. No one wants that. But
Yeah.
for that kind of a hit, I'm not surprised. Let's just be happy it was that. Can you both tell me what was your worst injury you've had so far?
Well, my worst injury was a pop lung.
Mine's probably just, I don't know, sore back and neck, I suppose, so far.
The good old
How did you pop your lung?
No, I don't think it was the Derby's fault, but it was at Stroud, and I was driving forward and I seen Jason Rasport come around the outside of another car. So I don't know, I steered into him, and as soon as I hit him, it felt like I was winded. And then 2 seconds later, my car caught fire, so I was out. And I just went to the hospital, and turns out I popped my lung.
Well, damn. Okay. Didn't know that one. It seems like you and Jason seem to have a bit of a rivalry going on there.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems so, eh?
He just seems to be the one that keeps popping up, does he? So we'll move on. Just want to, obviously, you can see under our names there, we're all a part of the Australian Demolition Derby Association. We had our first meeting a couple of nights ago. We're just going to discuss that a little bit further. The idea behind the association is that there hasn't really been a governing body or place to go to for representation of the Demolition Derby drivers, as well as having any sort of organisation between event to event. And I feel like one of the major reasons why I was discussing it with Nathan, that's what kicked it going, is a lot of the drivers aren't being recognised for their contribution to the sport, as well as a lot of issues finding drivers for representation in the big derbies. So selection of rep derbies became an issue because I was like, I don't see every derby. So that's why we moved on to the leadership board and stuff like that to kind of track everyone's progress, give us a bit of an idea. So when we actually are looking for city versus country or state of origin, which are all rather recent events, we can look at the leadership board and go, oh, these are the drivers that are doing well. As well as now the international derby with the boys going over to America, it's kind of stepped up a level from where we all started. I don't think either of you boys, especially myself, have seen anything like what's been going on in the last year or so, which is great to see. But we definitely need some sort of organisation to make that push forward and represent the drivers better. So, as the president of that organisation, you want to tell us through your goals and aspirations for that association?
Yeah, so with the association, you just want that like a uniform body. You just want it's more about having a place for all the drivers to go, and they can be like, okay, we got this problem. We got this problem in the south, but we don't have this problem in the north. We got this problem in the north, but we don't have this problem in the south. And then they got the way that they set up in the north, and they got this way that they set up. It's about bringing everything together and just making the whole derby world a lot easier. Given that uniform, really bringing everyone together as a big committee or a big group.
Yeah.
Pushing
and trying to set the standard of what we need to. Obviously, There's a few derbies out there that are, people throw a car in there and some of them don't even have bar work in them. You just strip it out and go. Where that's obviously going to be an issue in the future. And although it hasn't happened yet, we don't want to see anyone get seriously injured or killed in the sport, because that obviously affects us all. And there's different builds in Queensland. There's different builds in South Australia. I haven't really seen much of the builds in Victoria, but even in New South Wales, the south coast is different than the north, and in the middle, Hunter Valley is completely different as well. We're all here for the same purpose, and that's to entertain the crowd and put on a show, and obviously smash some cars and have some fun. But coming forward from the association's point of view, we don't want to restrict anyone's ability to do that. We just want to have somewhere for them to come to if there is issues. Say in relation to certain shows where drivers aren't allowed to go to if the organizer doesn't like you. That's something we can work on as a group and go, look, we're happy to help organise this stuff, but we've got to let everyone be involved. More inclusive sport is what I'm aiming
That's
for.
right. At the end of the day, it's an open sport. Anyone can do it, and that's the way it should be. As well as anyone doing it, they should be provided the information on how to do it and the safest way to do it, and having that connection to be able to do it and understand how to do it. And I guess that's a big thing of us too, that we can provide that information or the knowledge and the help on becoming part of this sport.
Yeah, and like I think there was a large step forward when we put the rules and regulations chief as Matthew Critchlow from Inverell. He's already speaking to us about building a Demolition Derby starter kit with professionally built fuel setups, battery trays and bar work that you can just bolt in because obviously he's a qualified welder and everything. I think that's going to be a great way to step forward for the people that want to get into the sport but don't necessarily have the skills to build the appropriate bar work or setup. And once you have that set up, you've got it for the rest of your career. You and Chris would know better than anyone. Once you have that first bite, you're coming back. No one stops.
Yeah.
So I think that's a large step forward, having someone that's of that standard going in there. And then you got Stacks Craig from the Craze Co, which stepped it up another level with his advertisement and promotion work. I mean, I don't know if you boys have seen the start of the Demolition Derby Association logo, but he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's definitely wicked what some people can do.
Yeah. So I wish I had that knowledge. So pretty much having that get together, I believe he's looking at personalised member shirts as well as race shirts and stickers and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff brings us a little bit of uniformity, gets our name out there, and basically adds a level of professionalism that's lacking at the moment from this sport.
Yeah,
and that's right. And like the more people that join, the more we can do. So like, you know, we're not doing this just for ourselves either. Like this isn't just for, you know, the people in the board or part of the committee. It's for everyone. You know, it's for the sport in a whole. It's not a single person sort of like thing here. It's for everybody as a whole. It's to see this sport still continuing in 20 years and getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, we want Queensland drivers to come on board. We want Victorian drivers. We want Western Australia. We want every single state out there. I think I've got in South Australia, we've got the legendary Jeff Flack, which if he comes on board is going to bring on so many different drivers. And they've already got what I'm moving on to next. It's the South Australian Leadership Board. Well, I want to have an Australian Leadership Board the association's going to run. With this association being as it is now, obviously there's going to be some gaps that we need to fill. Once we have members in different areas, we can start moving on from that and cover those areas for points and stuff like that. But just speaking on that leadership board now, obviously because not everyone's on the Facebook page, I'll talk everyone through it. So it's going to be a members-only leadership board. So only members will be actually included in it. If a non-member wins the event, well, wherever the member sits, whether they get second or third place, that's obviously the points they're going to get. And hopefully the person that wins it that isn't a member will come on board. So we're going to have 10 points for representative derby, so city versus country, state of origin or international. There's 10 points right there. 5 points are winning a derby. So that's a great way for people to catch up. If you win 2 derbies, well, you're at the higher level anyway. You're most likely going to get picked for representative derbies anyway, which is a great way for people to move through. Be 3 points for second place, 2 points for third, 4 points for Mad Dog. So you've got people like Matt Moore that might not win every derby, but he's an absolute psychopath and will hit someone at 100 kilometers an hour. Well, he's almost getting the same for Mad Dog as he's going to get for first place. So that's fantastic for the sport because you don't want to have just sandbaggers driving around the outside because it gets crowded out there and it's really hard for me to win then. And then you got the most damaged. So that could be Mad Dog as well because, as we all know, the harder you hit, car bends. So if you snag the Mad Dog and you're the most damaged car there, well, there's 7 points as it is. And then you got best presented is 2 points, and so is crowd favourite. So if the Mad Dog wasn't crowd favourite, or if there is a crowd favourite prize there, you can get that for 2 points. We all know there's cars there, like how Chris does the Lightning McQueen, that's going to get the bigger roar from the crowd, whether he's hitting hard or not, just because of how cool his car looks. And then we got the participation points, which is just a single point. So even if you're showing up to every derby in that, you're still going to get those points up, and which definitely could make a difference in the future. If you're coming down to 1 point to win it or not, you definitely want to get those participation ones up. So at the end of the Derby season, which we actually calculate the Derby season to be starting and ending with the State of Origin. So I believe the next Derby will be Boona in Queensland, but the membership won't be ready by that time. So I imagine the first actual eligible one would probably be that Lake Liddell small car derby in Muswellbrook, I think it is. So whoever's a member by then will kick off the leadership board. So at the end of the season, we'll crown the winner. The winner will get, obviously, the title of Australian champion, which is fantastic that we have a proper build-up for that. They'll get a trophy, which I'm hoping to get the quite large ones that they have over the American style ones, where they're not just normal one, they're like 2 foot tall. So we'll get that trophy. We'll get some prize money, which will hopefully be significant. We'll be searching for sponsors and stuff like that. And they also get a spot on the Team Australia team for the next international tour. So I've already spoke to Nathan about this. We're talking to Impact Motorsports in Canada about the opportunity to do a Demolition Derby over there. If not, we'll speak to the boys at Demo and see whether they want us to come back over. Also looking at the English banger racing, which would be an amazing one to get into if we could send a team over there. Not sure any of the Aussies actually know what the rules are for that. I have no idea, but it looks fantastic.
It looks wild.
It does look great. But yeah, so the idea is to get everyone involved and have a proper Australian championship. Hopefully we'll get enough members from each state to compete. If not this year, then when we build it up for next year, once the people have seen it, I believe the leadership board is going to be a big game changer for the sport, with making representative derbies so much easier to pick, because obviously if you're in the top 10 of the leadership board in Australia, you're quite high up on the list to get picked for the Origin or for the City versus Country or any international derbies that come up. Is there anything you boys want to say on that?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's good. It's just more incentive to be a part of it, like it's recognition.
Yeah, recognition is going to be a great thing. And like as it is, you have boys that are dominating the sport and they're known in their local areas, but you're not going to know their name in South Australia or in Victoria or anything like that, or even Tasmania. Whereas we have this, if Chris Fisher starts winning every derby, everyone's going to go, well, who's this bloke? And then they'll start looking up that. And hopefully having these podcasts, we can bring those drivers on. So if they're tearing through and they're a rising star, we'll bring them onto the podcast and talk to them about what brought them into the sport and why they're winning as much as they are. This moves us on to something that neither one of us are looking forward to. We're going to do the State of Origin review. Okay. Unfortunately, New South Wales lost the State of Origin series. We lost the first game. We do have game 2 coming up. We've made some changes to the team, just trying to bring in more of a focus on people that build their cars solid. I think like the issue with the New South Wales team, in my opinion, was there wasn't a lot of speedway drivers there. We kind of got ourselves caught in no man's land in the middle of the track when the Queensland team had a massive run up, which kind of put us in a bad spot to start with. And once we lost our Utes and panel van, we couldn't match them for strength. Their cars were built fantastic. And more power to the boys. They did give us a good whooping. That won't happen in game 2. So we'll play
the underestimated them, that's for sure.
Oh, 100%. And props to Toowoomba Speedway for allowing us to actually show what we've got at their venue. They've been a fantastic supporter of our derbies, as well as a future supporter of the association by the looks of the comments on Facebook, as well as KGH Conveyancing in Newcastle. They've been fantastic for every single representative derby so far. They've sponsored us for the international tours. They've sponsored us for State of Origin, and they've sponsored us for City vs Country. So if you guys ever need any conveyancing stuff, please go to them, support our sponsors. I'll leave a link on this when I post it. Just give them a like, give them a good review. We just need our as much support as we can for this sport to move forward. So with that, we'll watch this this amazing derby of brutality and let the actions speak for themselves. So you can see at the start, I've started off going back to back with the other captain. Nate's come through here. As you can see, he's up the top there. Now, I don't know if you can count that, Nate. I'm going to ask you what was going through your head, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars you went against at the start. And if you watch him go further, Nate's up there in no man's land on his own, where all New South Wales is at the bottom of the track still. Now, they do mention what's happening to Nate at the moment, but I think it's would have been a very unpleasant situation to be in. You can see down the right-hand side there, Nate's just copping an old-fashioned whooping by every Queensland car.
Yeah, it was. So my original thought was that, yeah, that wasn't fun sitting there. But my original thought, so obviously we had a little game plan between us in what to do off the start. Obviously, it didn't go sort of to exactly how we wanted it. But my plan was originally to sneak up the front and come back at their front ends once they took off the line. Obviously, the big thing of our mistake during this derby was the underestimating them as drivers and their builds. Not so much their driving, but more their builds. The way they build a ute and a panel van is completely different to the way we build utes and panel vans. So just not having that knowledge of that was definitely that sucked.
Who was that? Number 7 for the Queensland side, just absolutely wailed on the side of you.
Yeah, so I was coming back at their front ends because obviously that's the weak point of any ute and panel van, and they were doing head-ons because obviously their fronts were built well, so I underestimated that and I lost my CV.
Yeah. So did you see actually who took your CV out? I'm assuming that you were already out by the time this van wailed you on the side.
Yeah, I was pretty cooked there. It was one of the panel vans. I'm not quite sure on the number.
And old Jason Rasport's just riding the wall there.
Yeah, he went.
He just got sent flying.
Yeah.
What were you doing whilst Bake was getting hammered there, Chris?
Oh,
Yeah, not helping. I was sending mental messages. He wasn't receiving them.
Off the start, he was at the other end of the field, so I didn't have eyes on him.
Yeah, and so that's a thing we've changed for game 2. I'll take that one on. There's Chris there, number 8 for New South Wales. I started them off completely away from each other, whereas in the next game they start side by side. So I'm hoping by doing that we'll stop Nate from taking on 10 people on his own, and we'll try and keep them together to basically protect each other and do what they do best as a team. Because as far as team pairings in New South Wales, you guys are definitely top 3. But as individuals, well, I see what happened to Nathan Williams there, which was not great.
No.
So we'll have my great moment there. So up at the top left of the corner, you'll see this is Jake Cox here in his Queensland ute. He was laying into Mark Murray. So I was coming from one side of the field as fast as that van would go. I was a bit nervous about not having a radiator, so I thought I'd just send it as hard as I could for as long as I could. So Jake's put himself to the side there, and I've just whaled him in the side, completely broke his car. I was in my glory here for about 3 seconds, think I'm the greatest ever, and then saw the back of a van and got absolutely waylaid, which was very unfortunate. My car shut off straight away. The ball joint didn't actually break at this point, but once the Queenslanders sense blood in the water, they just come from everywhere. This is right when I got poor old Clint Walters got hit into my driver's door, is where I've broken my ribs. So from here to the next hit, I believe I get hit in the ball joint by Reese Hack. I couldn't breathe. So for any of those shots, I was not breathing at all. I've actually flagged down the official for the first time in my derby career without even trying to start the car. And I said, no, I'm done. And there I am there, regretting my choices in life. I realised I broke my rib right about there. I go, oh, far out, I said. That tickles.
Yeah.
So at this point, just for the Queenslanders' information, me and Nathan are on the sidelines there, absolutely cacking it because we see the numbers coming. See Queensland there. If you watch the actual how they're driving, look at them doubling up. How fantastic is that?
Oh, it's just great.
As far as driving skill, they worked so well as a team. It was completely blew us away. Oh, there's a driver's door hit. I don't know who that was, but that was a very bad one.
Yeah,
but if you watch how they actually drive, they're always going in twos, and they're coming from one side of the track to the other.
I think the biggest underestimation thing is the whole thing was the fact that they were doing head-on so early. That is not something that me personally thought was going to happen.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
That's what really really screwed me up, was not expecting the head-ons to be happening.
Yeah, 100%. They drive completely different in Queensland. Their vans might not have a lot in the front, but that's never once stopped them from going head on. No. The thing they underestimated with us, which kind of saved us a little bit, was young Matt Moore in his 380. That bloke is something special when it comes to big hits. If you watch out, there's a hit coming up soon where one of the boys are chasing, I think it might have been Clint Walters from Nabiac, and Matt must see it coming, and he just comes through and absolutely obliterates someone. But if you have a look at the actual speed of the panel vans here, this is a fantastic shot. Matt's in reverse, and this number, I think it's number 9. I think that's Brandon Burgess. Like, look at that.
See, that's insane for a panel van to be moving that quick.
Yeah, you just don't see that in Hunter Valley derbies. Like, if you're in a van, you're getting hit by about 50 cars at once. It's a little bit different in New England. The vans and utes are a little bit better, but nothing compares to the way the Queenslanders build them. Like, they were matching speed with 380s. Like, you just don't see that anywhere.
No.
And Matt Moore's having a conversation with the Queensland boys as he's sitting there. There's the old king of the north, Clint Walter, going down swinging. Very disappointed with how that Camry wagon bent straight to the ground.
Yeah, it's actually there's a big hit from Matt Moore.
So that's Reese Hack with Matt Moore. Watch that ute bend, bang, just absolutely folded at that 380.
See, it's very rare to see a 380 fold the way it did, which just goes to show the strength of a Queensland car as well, because you don't get to but you don't get to bend 380s in that way. You know, down here in New South Wales, they just don't bend like that.
No, and I think a lot of it is that was probably the most brutal derby I've ever seen. Ever been involved with anything. That was And I imagine that the Queensland boys would say the same thing. Like when we actually did get a hold of them, the hits were pretty good.
I don't think they expected our newer model cars to put up any sort of fight compared to that.
Nah. And once they had got rid of that would have hurt. Once it was just the Camry Wag and some Magnas and that taking on them utes on that size of track, it was always going to be bad. I love the fact that Clint, as the King of the North, and his retirement derby he's actually done now, refused to go down without a fight. He fought until the very last moment when they shattered his battery right there. So he didn't actually notice at the moment, so he cops a couple extra hits, but his battery shattered on impact then, his brand new battery. But yeah, he did not go down quietly, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, and he's had a really good career as well, Clint.
No, definitely. He's definitely at the top of the sport. It's a shame to see him go, but I mean, there's only so many years you can crash cars into each other before your body gives out. And I know for a fact he was definitely feeling that derby after. I don't think he could walk for a few days after.
Yeah, he did say that his the old legs didn't want to cooperate and his back was a bit sore.
Yeah, so me and him are getting a bit old for it. I could barely breathe after the derby for like a week. That night was the worst night's sleep I've had ever. So between his leg injury and my rib injury, it's probably time for the next generation to come through. So moving on to game 2, what are you guys going to do differently?
Not bad. It's definitely learned the lesson from game 1, obviously. It's good now. You can sit there and watch the video and you can see it from a different point of view and see all the mistakes that were made and take your driving skill different into the next one and
Yeah, 100%. So I definitely won't be in a rear-wheel drive next time. I have to be in a front-wheel drive. It's what I know. It's what I'm good at. I think the speed of it shocked me. That Toowoomba Speedway track is very intimidating when you go out there and you see how quick it's going to be. As I drove out there, I thought, this is probably the best track I've ever been on in my derby career, and immediately regretted being in a rear-wheel drive panel van. I instantly wanted to be in a Magna Wagon or a 380 or something when I got to that track. And I don't know about you guys, but as the first car driving out to that speedway, when I was going straight through the gates, the boo from the crowd was louder than my engine. Like, I was like, we are definitely not in friendly grounds here. The Queenslanders definitely showed up. And the roar from the Queensland crowd when the boys from Queensland showed up was something I'll never forget.
But I don't know. I reckon you could have still heard Blake Taylor over the Queensland crowd.
Oh yeah, he enjoyed that derby. I don't know if you boys have seen his Snapchats or anything like that, but he was having a ball.
Oh yeah, him and Steve-O.
Yeah, they absolutely loved it, and the blue face paint and everything like that. Like they're proper supporters. It's a shame that they didn't get into game 2, but we'll see how it goes when it gets closer. If there's any changes or anything like that, we can do to try and get them in there. Alternatively, they're going to be great supporters of us in the crowd again, which really I thought drove the boys as well before it, having the big meeting with those boys with their confetti and stuff. Like they loved it.
Yeah. Like we're from like the mid New South Wales, and for them to drive up to Toowoomba, it's not like it's around the corner. And the support was just incredible.
It was fantastic. And hopefully they bring that into game 2 and we can make it bigger and better. Toowoomba Speedway's upped the money in it, so it's fantastic that all the boys are getting paid to actually derby, which is something that's unheard of at the moment. It just shows the gravity of a representative derby. If you go there and you go, I'm getting paid to be here, so this is a professional sport now. Rather than
not only that too, like it's such a good feeling to have, that I believe it wasn't even like a week or 2 weeks later after the first one that they come back with that offer and they wanted us back straight away. That's it. Like to have that feeling of like, that was great. We want you back. No ifs, buts, or whatever. We want you here. So like just that feeling alone of the appreciation back to us was it was definitely a good feeling.
Yeah, it's good to see that our input's being valued by a venue, which is a fantastic feeling. And I have no doubt the boys are going to bring the heat for the next event as well. Like it's going to be something to see. Hopefully, I'll put some cushions in so I don't break my ribs again. But moving on, I just want to do a quick review of the Warialda Show Derby, which is the most recent derby that we've had. I just want to show you boys how that derby started. So, and this is the reason why these boys were picked for game one. So Andrew Torgo, he was New South Wales number 6, is an absolute monster. So his motor gave out when they were in the lineup, and he knew he was going to last not long in this derby. But you watch this hit at the start, just bang. Doesn't that show you why he was picked for that team?
Yeah, it was perfect hit.
And see, that's another thing too. Like rolling another car in a rear-wheel drive car, you need speed for it, because as soon as your arse end hits, your back wheels are gone. So all your power for pushing is gone. It's all about momentum. So it just shows how heavy that hit is.
Oh, and we would have felt that he 100%. You can see how caved the door is, but have a look at the smoke coming out of the motor. Like as it was coming in, it's a massive run up, and just whacks him in the side. We've also got our in-car camera from our representative driver, Matthew Critchlow, or Critty. So Critty had an in-car camera going at the time. He also did a massive hit off the start. Critty's the City vs Country representative driver. He's New South Wales number 7 for game 1 and game 2. And he's also been selected for the Team Australia as a representative driver to go over to America, which we'll get into later. But have a go at this for in-car footage. That is incredible. You can see the run-up that Torgo had. See the smoke coming out of the thing, and then just poleaxes that bloke. Critty sees it and just poleaxes this bloke too.
Yeah,
it's a different animal
driver. That's not how you want your boot to go off the first hit.
No, if we could go back, I might be able to slow that down. So that looks like an EL Falcon. But you have a go at that. To
be fair, EL Falcons have a really long boot too. So for it to fold that far into the back window, it's solid. That was
a big hit. Like you can see straight from there, this bloke would have been going, this is going to be a great derby. I can see everything. Now he can't see a thing. So I bet you for the rest of the derby, he wouldn't have been able to see anything.
Which is the worst way to start a derby, is to blow your boot straight up in the air.
And if you have a look, it skinned his boot lid. So his chassis is still straight. So that would have been a very hard derby for him to continue on with.
If you go back there a bit too, it folded the roof in. So it kinked his whole roof. So if you can keep going back a smidge. Just there.
Oh, it did.
See the roof?
That pillar. Yeah, it did. Look at that. That's a cracker. I'd love to get a photo for that after. Once this gets posted, if you're the driver of the, I think it's 96, the car that got railed by Critty, just post a photo of the after effect of that car to this. It would be fantastic to see what that looked like after the few shots. Whilst we're on rollovers, though, I just want your opinion on this one. Happened at Inglewood Show with me against the Queenslanders. I don't know if you boys have seen that before, but that's a 380 going against an XF Ute. And I have no idea how it rolled.
Yeah, that is so strange. Like,
and the way it rolled too, like it wasn't even a big momentum roll. It was just
I wanted to bounce.
Yeah, it's like you clipped your tire there.
Yeah, so my rear tire was bent quite badly after this event. Unfortunately, my battery went flat because it dropped a cell during the derby. Otherwise, I would have won this one, which unfortunate that I didn't. But even just to do that, so I think that was Nick, who was going to be in the Queensland team, was the first car I hit, and I put the diff under his car, like just broke the diff. And then this was his mate here, which I thought was going to, as I was coming in here, I thought I've definitely missed this shot. I was just about to flick the front end, and then the impact come out of nowhere. And you can see I put the brakes on straight away because I was shocked I got hit.
Yeah.
And there's again our TikTok page. Just little things like that. The chances you're going to roll in a derby, I think, are getting bigger and bigger. It just randomly happens sometimes. Back in the day when I started out, and probably when Nath was doing it, the old Holdens were the go, and there was not many rollovers. It was very rare to see one. But now we've got the front-wheel drives, and there's a lot more speed, even though the derbies don't last as long. It's incredible to see so many rollovers.
Oh, that's right. And that's what I was talking about before. Like with the rear-wheel drives, as soon as you hit, your arse end lifts, you lose your drive. But with these front-wheel drives, as soon as that arse end hits, it lifts, and all it does is just put all that weight on the front wheels, and you just keep driving.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's why I guess the rollovers now are more rollovers where they actually roll.
And it seems to be a lot more insane drivers as well. My style of driving is becoming less and less frequent, whereas you have drivers like, Matt Moore and Andrew Torgo and that are just massive hitters. There just seems to be breeding. I don't know where they're coming from.
Everyone's got a lot of build-up anger.
Yes. If you guys, probably Nath would be, I don't know whether Chris was around during our reign. Back in the day, we had the Kamikazes, and they were the biggest hitters that were out there. And we had Andy Jag, who's still spoken about quite highly in the sport. He was the biggest hitter out there, bar none. And now it seems like every derby there's 4 or 5 of the biggest hitters in the world. And you just got to watch yourself and try and stick and move.
Derbies are getting popular and therapists are going out of money.
Yeah, that's true. So just on a side note, Nathan Stace won that derby at Warialda too. Congratulations, Nath. So if you guys are happy with it, I'm going to move on to talking about the international tour. So basically, we're sending an Australian team over to the US to compete in Demolition Derby at Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee. I'm very excited about this. Well, as one of the drivers, I'm very excited. But as a promoter and for our country and our sport, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to move forward. I've never seen this happen in derbies in my career. I know my brother went over to New Zealand to represent Australia when the old boys went over. I believe your dad went over too, Nath?
Mm-mm.
No?
No. It was, I believe it was your brother and Jamie Fellows.
Yeah. I think Graham went over there too, Graham Passfield. But it's such a rare thing that was, I think, 27 years ago was the last time we had an international tour. Moving forward, the ADDA wants this to be a yearly thing for people to work towards and then go overseas to represent demolition derbies as a sport, but also our country. I think there needs to be a top tier of derbies now that we have city versus country, state of origin, and the top tier is going over to represent Australia. I think moving forward, if we have that as a yearly thing, it's going to bring so much attention to the sport, not just by local news channels and stuff like that, but doing stuff like this as podcasts and stuff, sending a team over to a country that has a completely different style of derbies. I think it's fantastic. I have no idea how we're going to go over there because it's so different. Like we have to protect our front, like it's like it'll kill you if you get hit once. Whereas over there, they don't protect their front at all.
No, they pretty much predominantly use the front.
Yeah, which is going to be crazy because me and Critty are going to be obviously natural instincts to protect your front. So we're going to be very much thrown off by the head-on straight off the start. I do want to, as a side thing, thank the KGH Conveyancing. They've put an enormous amount of money towards sending us overseas, which is fantastic for us because it makes it so much easier. You can see the logo over there at the top. it makes it so much easier for these events to happen if we can say to the boys, look, we're going to cut the costs in half by having a sponsor step up and be a major sponsor for this event. We're going to have stickers on our cars for KGH conveyancing, and we're going to have video blogs and stuff like that whilst we're over there. Pretty much just trying to get as much exposure for that business as we can. So if everyone can support them as well, that would go a long way to sort of trying to talk them into coming back and doing it as a yearly thing or whatever, because we need sponsors like that. Like they've really stepped up the game for sponsorship. The other thing is I just want to thank the boys at Demo, Dustin Woods and Brian Wood, for giving us the opportunity to go over there, and Devon Schmidt for building my car, the big old GM wagon that is as long as my house. Have you boys seen that car?
Yes, you posted on the group.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that car?
You ever driven a limo?
I remember taking the City vs Country car, which was a Valiant wagon, into that event, and I thought that was the biggest car I've ever derbied. But looking at that GM wagon, that is the longest car I've ever seen, like other than a limo. So I have no idea how I'm going to go turning that thing around. But I imagine by the looks of it, it's got to be solid, surely.
I think so.
Has to be. Well,
also, it's a V8. It's a V8 as well, isn't it?
Yeah, small block Chevy, I think he was putting in it, which is just incredible that we do that. But just for the demo boys that might be watching, Dustin and Brian, Shake and Bake are also extremely excited if they can go over there. So if you guys can find a car, they're willing to go over and have a play. So if you want to see these two blokes over there and Chris's bald head, well, you just say the word and I'll get the boys keen and they'll go over as well. The fact that they're building cars over there for us is fantastic. Like I'm trying desperately to get some of their boys to come over. I know Devon's coming over. He's keen as. We're going to throw him in a Magna and put him on a big track at probably Glendennis, because I think it's going to blow his mind when he sees cars coming at 60, 70 kilometres an hour. And I'm going to try and explain to him, don't use the front of your car, use the back and go from there. Well, I mean, some people use the front. I know Shane Oliver, after like 2 or 3 hits, he uses the front, same as the Americans do, which is cool to see. But probably not the greatest way to get into the sport and use the front straight off the start. We could see him clipping his own wheel or something like that, which would suck. So, yeah, I'm gonna play the ad for it just for you guys at home. Demo. Now that looks incredible.
Yeah, that looks like fun.
Yeah, definitely get you pumped up.
Yeah, definitely. And seeing that Bristol Speedway, that's a whole different animal. We have nothing in Australia that matches that size, or the atmosphere is going to be incredible. I think it was 160 or 180,000 people it can hold in that place. They call it the last Coliseum, so that's going to be. The other thing is, and when we bring Critty on, we'll probably talk a bit more detail. But the driving on the wrong side of the car is going to blow my mind.
Oh yeah. So that's
looking over your right shoulder, not your left.
Yeah, so that'll probably when I say to Critty, we'll just drive forward because we can't turn around. It's not like
you'll be constantly throwing your arm out the window.
100%. I'm going to be halfway out the car, probably lose my arm, so I'm turning around the wrong way. But that kind of stuff and bringing future tours and linking that into the leaderboard. If we can get the boys over there, I'm always keen to talk to the demo boys because they're at the top of the game. Like, as far as I can see, they're probably the best organisation over there, considering they are the only international one that I know of. other than obviously working with Canada, which is only, I mean, I think it's like from here to Queensland away from them. So it's not as far, whereas they've got us coming, which unfortunately the flight's like 30 hours to get over there. But the fact that they've reached across the pond to get some Australian drivers over there shows me that they're a promotion that I want to be involved with. And hopefully we can have some things in the future where we can work and bring them over here and show them our style of derby. I think that's something that they'd be interested in. Well, after watching a few of the clips, they might not be interested in it, actually. I don't know if you boys saw it before. I know Chris was looking at it. Did you see the live stream that I put on the derby page of I think it was their youth class heat?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
No, Chris?
No, I have not seen that.
No. Basically, they had a passenger derby where the bloke that was sitting next to him was holding a mobile phone on live stream, actually videoing the event. It looked, you definitely have to watch it later, but it looked very boggy over there. And just the fact that someone was holding a phone in a demolition derby blew my mind. Because when they were talking about it, they were going to do a live stream during the derby. I was like, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I thought they might have had a GoPro or something like that. But they actually have the ability to hold a mobile phone during the derby, which, like, I'll show you an in-car footage that of our Australian derbies. This was Parramatta Speedway back in 2010, I think. So you can see from this that there's not much of the ability to hold a mobile phone during the derby in Australia.
Yeah. Not unless you want to lose it.
Nah, and I absolutely destroyed this car. At the moment, I'm thinking I'm doing quite well. I have a stuff up here in a second. But can you imagine holding a mobile phone during a run-up? Watch this one. Picture holding the phone here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
I felt that. So the difference in driving over there is incredible. Like, I think that we have way too much space for our derbies and too much speed. But like the skill that those boys have, you can see as they were talking, they were trying to get angles of their cars into wheels and stuff like that. Like, I think that would be an amazing thing for us to bring that style of driving over here if we can. I'm just not sure how to do it without having full chassis cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different world, or a different whole. We're just on completely different ends of the scale in terms of derbies.
Yeah, and there's a hell of a lot more money over that way. Like, I think there's probably 400 to 500,000 for the demo, in prize money for the demo one on the line at Bristol Speedway, which is huge. Like, imagine taking home 500,000 for a derby.
See, that's and obviously they started no different to how we're starting. So, like, that's something we can all look forward to is events in line. Obviously, it's not an overnight thing, and it's not going to be an overnight thing. But these are the things that we can look forward to. That everyone over there would have started exactly the same way we're doing.
100%. I've been talking to, I think it was Dustin over there, and they've had 50 years to build up their sport.
Yeah,
like, we've had a bit of time to build up ours, but it's never quite been, like I said, there's no governing body over here. There's never been an organisation. We did have the Demolition Derby Social Club back in the day, which was fantastic, but it never really got out of the Newcastle region.
Yeah, it was a local thing. Yeah,
so we never had anything to attempt to go all over Australia, like bringing in drivers from Victoria and Western Australia and South Australia. If we can bring all that in, would be fantastic. Like, realistically, at this stage, there's probably going to be Queensland and New South Wales are going to be the main drivers of it until we get up a bit more. But you never know. There's government grants out there for thousands of dollars. You got KGH conveyancing, which is fantastic. If they come on board for the association too, that's going to make us even bigger. This podcast is going to be a weekly thing with me and Nathan having different drivers on that, which I think is going to build it up too. So I have sponsorship opportunities, have the boys on, recognise what they've done in the sport. Like, you two boys are representative drivers, which There's never been a thing we've had in the past, but that just shows that you're at the top of the game for what we have available. So speaking to the demo boys, if you do want some top of the line drivers, they're right there waiting. So you've got me and Pretty, which would love some backup from other Aussies to come over. It would be fantastic to have 4 of us at Bristol Speedway if you have some more people that are willing to build cars. But so moving forward with the association and stuff like that, myself and Nathan have been talking to people at the Stroud Committee, and we're trying to create an event for a weekend Demolition Derby tournament, which would be a fantastic thing to bring to the sport. You want to start with that one, Nath?
Yeah, so it's just instead of sort of being limited to our spot at a local show or a show weekend or anything to do with sort of that type of thing, where most of our local derbies are held and pretty much all of our derbies are held apart from sort of rep things. But even representative derbies have got a time slot that they fit into. Sort of looking at creating a weekend dedicated to derbies. There's no time slot. There's no, we're not being put with anyone else. It's our weekend. So it's going to be a weekend just full of bending and twisting cars. Going to run it more like a competition style weekend. So you're going to run your heats. Then you'll have your feature. It'll be all, if it all works out right, you can have different styles of like different classes of cars. So your 4s, your 6. If there's enough interest, obviously, we can run a women's derby too, which obviously that's something that should be brought back into the sport. It's something that's sort of hit and miss every now and then, and seems to be there's more women out there that want to keep driving but don't want to enter the sport in the open world with some of the nutcases that we do have driving at the moment.
Yeah, and we do have some talented girls coming into the derbies at the moment. We had Claudia Stace, Nathan Stace's daughter. She's doing quite well. I think she's won 3 or 4 derbies up in against the boys. She won the Queen of Crash that we held at Bundara, which had about 7 or 8 cars in it, and that was quite entertaining. That was heats and feature as well. So hopefully we could build some event so that she can travel and have more of a circuit for the girls as well. So they don't want to come up against Chris who might put them in a helicopter or something like that.
Yeah, that's not taking away anything from her either. Like there is some girls out there that, and I'm not saying it's a man's sport. It's not at all. It's, she's a perfect example of someone that's come in and, she might have been the only woman on the field and she's just taking out 20 blokes. That's
true. It doesn't matter at the end of the day whether you're a male or a female. You're in a car.
That's right.
You're hitting another car. It's all skill, but it's interesting to see the different dynamics when you get different event styles. So having the female ones, having I'd love to get a youth class for people that have done less than 5 years of derbies. Having that out there would be fantastic. And like I said, with Critty making the new starter kits and stuff like that, it's never been easier to get into the sport and have a high level built car straight off the start. I mean, I don't know about you boys, but when I first started, I used to use threaded rod and chain to hold everything down. Didn't know how to weld, so I'd use seatbelt to hold my doors closed. Didn't know about moving electronics under the front, so everything would be stock standard with just the battery lead moved. And then we'd just send it and hope for the best. The sport's come a long way from then. Now cars, you can tell the ones that are experienced by the builds that they do. And obviously you can see the newbies that are just trying their best out there as well. But that's another thing that we can achieve with the podcast and stuff is we're eventually going to move on to a live format where people can send comments in and stuff like that, and we can talk about what they're talking about. So if they're asking, they desperately want to ask questions about building cars and stuff, we can answer that in a live function, which I think is only going to grow the sport as well.
Yeah, so even with these episodes, like our first few that are just going to be a pre-recorded episode, if anyone does have any questions, feel free, for next episode to shoot the questions through to either me, Shane, the Facebook group, any way to get in contact. We can answer them on the next one as well, or
and we have that Demolition Derby Association page, which is is easy to get in contact with. Just put something on there, and we can answer any questions on there.
Yeah.
We're going to have very experienced drivers in every podcast, so we'll all know your answers eventually, whether it's this week or the next week. We'll have an answer for you, which is, I think, the idea behind it. If people have ideas about how they want to move the sport forward, please get in contact with us. And once we have our, I think it's Friday meeting, we should be able to finalise some membership packages and stuff like that. If you want to join the Demolition Derby Association, I feel like that would be a great way for you to learn, because as a mentor role or something like that, if a newbie comes into the association, we're all going to be wanting to help that newbie to get to the best that they can get. And now we have steps moving forward. If you start moving forward in the leadership on the leaderboard, we have different programs. So you're in the leadership board, you're doing well, we might bring you onto the podcast, or we might select you for City vs Country or Origin or something like that. There are so many options with how this organisation's going now, which is something we didn't have back in the day.
Yeah, and like coming back onto like the newbie part of things too, like a lot of people coming into the sport are nervous about coming in because at the moment there's not a whole heap of new drivers coming through. So they look at everyone that's driving at the moment as veteran drivers, and they're like, oh, I don't really want to. But what you need to understand is that coming in as a newbie, you are not an easy target in any aspect. Whether you can drive or can't drive, it's not. We don't look at you as someone that we can just hit flat out because they're easy. You know, like we want new people to come in. So the last thing you want to do is absolutely demolish a newbie off the start. And not that we go easy on you, but at the same token, we're not going to take advantage of you being a newbie and trying to get used to the sport as well. Like
my opinion would be the newbies is a fantastic spot to be in because you're not targeted. You don't have rivalries or anything like that. I start a derby, I've instantly got 10 cars after me. So I don't care about that newbie because I'm trying to get away from the other 10 cars, or I'm trying to take out one of the blokes that I know. It's a fantastic spot to be in. If no one knows who you are, you're giving it a shot. No one's going to take advantage of you because they've got other people taking shots at them. So there's never that in sports anymore because there's just too much. We're too much of a community now. We all know each other. If Nathan or Chris is in a derby, I know that they can win, so I'm going to take them out.
Yeah, like it's Don't, if you are a newbie out there, don't be deterred away from it because you're not an easy target. You know, we want new people in the sport. We want to grow the sport. Last thing you want to do is act like we're a gang and we're going to kick you out. That's not what it's about.
We'd rather just have a go and get the taste of it rather than just us driving flat out at you and wreck it for you. So we just kind of leave you alone, let you have a bit of a play. Obviously give you some taps back and see if you feel the love of the sport and
and we have the Lake Liddell Speedway Derby coming up in I think 3 weeks. We've got Boona coming up on the weekend in Queensland, which are all going to be fantastic ones, which you can watch on the actual Demolition Derby page. But we'll talk about them in the next. We'll talk about Boona in the next podcast anyway. These are all things we're going to be working on to try and improve the sport. We can talk to drivers and that, talk to some newbies and just try and get this through. But if you are thinking about being a member, I suggest once we finalise the membership packages, that you come on board, give it a trial. If you don't like it, well then you can not sign up the next year. But I have no doubt in my mind that everyone's going to want to come on board because what Nathan and myself and the rest of the board are working on is going to change the sport completely. You're going to have more rep derbies, more derbies run by ourselves. And if you don't want to be a member, it doesn't mean we don't want you at our derbies or anything like that. Everyone's welcome in our derbies. It just means that you don't have the ability to be selected for representative derbies and stuff like that because obviously those are our members have the ability to be in representative derbies because they've supported the association that's going to put the work on to actually do those ones. But there's nothing saying that you can't see what the association's doing and just go, hey, I want to join now, and then come on board. Pretty much just see what's happening, have an open mind. We want the sport to grow, and we want you all to come on board.
Yeah, that's right. Like the big goal of it is to still see this sport alive and well in 20 years and bigger and better every year. You know, there's obviously going to be a point where the sport, it just gets massive, but it's going to be a slow process, and the support to do it is a massive thing. You know, everyone needs to agree upon it, and you know that's our plan. It's just obviously keeping the sport alive and given like a group rather than one independent person always busting their ass to do it. Now there's a committee and a community backing that and pushing, always having someone to push to keep your sport alive.
Yep. And we're over an hour in anyway, so if you guys are happy with that, I think we'll finish our first official podcast, episode 1, right there. Thanks for coming on board, Chris. I think you said about 100 words, but that's okay.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
All right, see you next time, guys.
See ya.